Welcome back to the workshop. If you've been following this channel for any amount of time, you know that over the last several months, we've been resurrecting a bunch of these guys, portable power stations. We fixed BMS issues, we've replaced bad cells with good, new ones, and we basically saved a ton of e-waste from the landfill for pennies on the dollar. But here's the thing. Once I get these things running and toss them in the rig for a trip, I run into a little bit of a wall, a 12-volt wall. See, you can plug a lot of these power stations directly into your car just through the cigarette lighter adapter, something that we've seen before. But then what? You get 100, maybe 120 watts worth of input? All of these units are going to be limited based on the amperage that that port can put out. And basically, you're stuck, even if you wire one of these directly to a battery, only getting in about 100 to 150 watts at max. And that's basically like trying to fill a swimming pool with a squirt gun. It's not gonna work. Or it will, it's just gonna take a really long time. Some of our larger power stations can take upwards of 20 hours to charge on something like that. Today, we're fixing the other half of the power equation. This isn't a repair video, it's an upgrade video. BougeRV sent over their new DC600 Alternator Charger. They claim that it's 6 times faster than charging off of just your standard 12-volt socket. Let's get it on the bench, tear it apart, metaphorically, mostly, and see if it actually delivers. All right, so the BougeRV Alternator Charger. Right out of the box, the first thing that you may notice about this guy is just kind of how tiny it is. This, for being something that can, in theory, put out 600 watts to one of your power stations, is actually kind of small, and not a whole lot going on here either. It only weighs about 1.7 pounds per their specs. I'd say that's right on the money. So if you're building a van or an SUV like camper setup, space is a premium currency, and this is something that's not going to take up a whole lot of it. So for those of you that may be overlanding, it might be a good option for you. Now we'll take a look here at the unit here in just a moment. I want to show what else comes in the box though, just so we can see what we're working with. So we've got a little bit of mounting hardware, nothing special here, just some basic screws. Inside of the box still we have a pretty hefty package actually, and we'll get rid of the box because there's nothing else in there. And this is all of the wiring that they include. So again, this is a unit that is meant to be, or rather can be, hardwired inside of a vehicle. So you get some pretty beefy wiring with this. So there's 2 things here that you'll notice. There's actually 2 sets of wires, and I haven't unpackaged this yet, so they're still kind of held together. So the first wire that you see here is an XT60 to what is called MC4. Now we're familiar, of course, with XT60 on this channel, something that we've used quite frequently, and we know that they've got this wired right because positives on the flat side. MC4 is something that we haven't really featured yet. This is something that will be in some upcoming projects. It's commonly used in solar panels. So when you're wiring solar panels either together or to a main controller, it'll use these MC4 connectors to carry that power over. I'll show you what this goes to here in just a moment. But here we also have a pretty beefy and sizable set of wires. So this is the wiring that allows you to wire this directly into your car's battery. You don't have to go and wire it into an alternator directly. Wiring it into the battery is sufficient because your alternator, of course, is going to charge your battery. It has some very nicely ferrule crimped ends here, and this is what plugs into our unit that we're going to take a look at in a moment. It does have a fuse connection. Now, one thing that I have seen mentioned, and I think that it's probably whatever manufacturer is making this wire, because it seems like there's multiple companies that bundle this particular wire set with their alternator chargers or other devices like this, like some of the different inverters that I've seen use this same set of wires. But one thing that they did here that isn't necessarily to my liking is they did put a fuse in line, but it's on the component end. The other end of this wire is a terminal end meant to be plugged directly into or bolted directly to your battery terminals. And in this case, your fuse should be on this end of the wire. When it comes to vehicle safety, especially if you're dealing with like an RV or something like that, where you're going to be running long stretches of wires and they could be hidden behind walls or inside of panels, you want to make sure that it's fused on this end so that if anything happens to short further on down the line, that fuse will cut it off and keep it from building up heat and potentially catching on fire. So when we're talking about electronics, fire comes from all places, not just lithium-ion batteries. So yeah. But again, Good size fuse here. It is a 60 amp fuse, and this should be pulling a maximum of around 50 amps. So that should go ahead and protect this wire well, while still allowing you to get the full amount of power out of this unit. So now we know what the wiring looks like here. Let's take a look at the actual unit itself. The unit's relatively small. The top of the unit has nothing here except for a little bit of a flap that we'll get to here in just a moment. On the back, all we've got is our serial number information and date of manufacture. This one just came out in September. And on this side, nothing at all. Bottom, same thing. The only thing we've got down here is going to be our mounting plate if we did want to go ahead and mount it to something stationary. Now, if we take a look on the left-hand side here, this is where our DC inputs are going to be. So this is where those ferrule end connections go ahead and screw right in to those ends. Now, on the right-hand side of the unit here, we've got a couple of different ports. So you've got an RS485 port, and that is a common communication port used in devices and home appliances like power inverters, solar charge controllers, and things like that. And it simply allows them to talk back and forth to turn on and off different functions. Not something that we'll necessarily use here, but if you are building an off-grid system or building a system inside of an RV, definitely a port that you will find comes in handy. We also have down here our main power output, and that is an XT60. Now, as we saw in the box here, we actually did receive an XT60 to MC4 adapter. So what this does is plugs right into the XT60 and then allows us to adapt this out to any device that would accept an MC4. Now, though, I hear you saying, you said that this would work with any power station. Don't worry. You're not wrong, and we will get to that here very shortly. On this side, we also do have a fan output. You can see right through here. And then we've got a power button to turn the device on and off, as well as a set button to allow it to be automatically set to the 30 volt, 300 watt charge setting. For the sake of just testing, I'm going to go ahead and wire it into a battery here at the benchtop so that we can test it out, make sure that it works, get that app running and show you all what it looks like. And then later we're going to test it inside of my vehicle to show exactly what it looks like once it's ready to go, and show a couple of the other features that are included in these type of alternator chargers. Now, to get this wired into one of our batteries here, first, I need to go ahead and get it unraveled. This is a nice, flexible, and high-quality cable here. Taking a look at the sheathing, it looks like it is a 6-gauge cable. They claim it to be full copper, and it does appear to be, just based on what I can see on the ends here. It looks like it is tinned copper wire, so one of the better ones. Not copper-clad aluminum, luckily. Now we've got our positive and negative here. Again, these are ferruled ends. You don't need to do anything to prepare these. They are ready to go right into the connector on the device. I've already got the device loosened up, so all we have to do is slide them in. Positive, of course, goes in positive, and negative black goes into negative. And from there, we'll just tighten down the wires. Now, the great thing about those ferrules is they not only hold the wires in place to keep them from fraying, but it also gives something nice and rigid for that set screw to bite onto. So these aren't going anywhere once we get them in there. Now, the only other thing I need to do at this point is plug this into one of our 12-volt batteries. Again, not running it directly off of a car in this case, and this is not something that you want to do with your own car because you'll drain the battery pretty quick pulling 600 watts out of it continuously. Again, most car batteries only have about 1,200 watt hours in them, brand new. So you can expect to run this for about 2 hours if you're just running the battery. This is something where you really need to be running the vehicle to be able to charge up a power station at the same time. And generally, you don't want to just be idling the vehicle when you're pulling this much power from it. Your alternator actually does cool itself by the action of spinning, and the faster it spins, the more cooling it gets. So if you're running this off of your alternator at idle power, in most cases you're probably pulling at least half capacity on any modern car's alternator, and that could put a large strain on that system. So you want to be careful on that. All right, so the only signs of life I got when I plugged that in was the fan did spin up for a short time, but I don't have any lights on or anything like that. Assumedly, if I go ahead and hit this power button here, there we go, we now have a power light. So we're going to get the BougeRV app installed on my phone. I did want to take a look though real quickly, and let's find out exactly how much power this thing puts out just straight out of the tap. So for that purpose, let me go ahead and bring in my nice new power meter. Now, ironically, the company that I've been using a power meter from for years reached out to me not too long ago and said, hey, would you like a power meter? And I said, hey, I've already got one. And they're like, hey, would you like a better power meter? And I said, hey, absolutely, send it on over. That's why I got this guy. It's a little easier to read on screen here because we've got the black on white. So let's take a look and see what this guy is putting out. Now we know, again, with our XT60 here, and I'm gonna try not to put too much strain on these cables. We know that our positive is our flat side, so I'm gonna put my negative probe right over here. Try not to cover the screen too much. Put my positive probe on the positive end. And we currently have 0 output, so there is nothing going on this guy at all. So in this case, it would actually, I misspoke earlier, would be safe to plug directly into your power unit and then go through the setup process. Now, if I hit that 30 volt, 300 watt button right up top there, and now we go ahead and probe it, we'll see that we're now getting out right at 30 volts. It's bouncing a little bit, but it was very, very quick to get right there to 30 volts. Now, this immediately did kick on a fan. It knows that it's going to be putting out a good amount of power if it's pumping out 30 volts. So because of that, the fan kicked on. And you guys may be able to hear that. I will say that if this was something that was mounted maybe in the back of a car inside of a enclosed unit, that fan noise probably wouldn't annoy me very much. But I am interested to see if we can get into the settings and turn that off, or maybe turn it down, because it's only about 60 degrees in my warehouse right now and she's really kicking. That might annoy me in a car. Again, if we're talking an emergency situation, you don't usually complain too much, but yeah, there we go. Now it's nice and quiet again. All right, so I was able to locate the BougeRV app here. Doesn't look like they've got great reviews, but there's not a lot of reviews either. So let's give it the benefit of the doubt and see how it works here. All right, do I want push notifications? Well, for something like this, if you are going to be using it in a van environment, definitely want to enable that. I'm going to say no for now, but of course, as with anything, we've got to agree to their privacy policy to get in. So let's go ahead and add a new device by hitting the plus right up top here. It's going to ask for our location, as these things do. The reason why it asks for this location isn't necessarily because it wants to know where you're at, but in newer versions of Android, you have to provide location to be able to see nearby devices. So if it wants to connect to this device via Bluetooth, it also has to request this location. I know that because I actually am an app dev. I do have a couple of apps out on the app market. I'm working on a couple right now as well. So we're going to go ahead and just say only this time. And then now it's going to ask if we can search for nearby devices. It immediately found the DC600. There wasn't even a cut there. It saw it was searching for 15 seconds. It only got to, I think, 14 before it found it. So we will go ahead and connect. And there we go. So it tells us we can go ahead and learn more about the device. I'm just going to go right in because while I'm not a professional, I do play one on TV. So let's open up the DC here. You can see that we've got our battery power coming into the unit. And that is just simply, again, saying that it is currently connected to a battery. Our alternator voltage, or in this case, battery voltage, is showing at 13.4 volts. And the unit is 71 degrees, which, considering it's got electronics running inside of it, not bad. It's 66 in the warehouse right now. It does show that we've got 0 output. Now, when it says here charging open, if we turn that on, it is going to go ahead and turn the unit on, and there we go, we get our fan going. So that's what's going to allow that 30 volts to come out of here. And we should see that here in just a moment. There we go. Now this is saying 13 volts. I've got a feeling that's not correct. Let's test that real quick. It should be 30 unless it changes as soon as you plug it into the app. No, 13.25 volts. Interesting. So it does change. As soon as you turn it on to the app, it goes ahead and it lowers down to its absolute lowest setting. You'll hear though that fan, well, you might hear, I don't know if my noise cancellation will cancel it out. That fan is still going really fast. For it basically just moving over almost nothing, that's a little strange to me. We have our charge voltage set at 30 volts, and when we attempt to modify the charge voltage, we get a nice little notice here saying, hey, we're not going to be held liable if you fry your own equipment. Do this at your own risk. Makes sense, I guess. Now it is going to tell us go ahead and disconnect the device. So the app here, I will say, is it needs a little bit of work, BougeRV. So I went through and I started reading these directions, and they didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So it's telling us here disconnect the device through the open button on the app/device before adjusting the charge. What I believe they mean by that is they want us to go ahead and hit the power button here so that it is not outputting a charge before we go in to try and change this. Or of course, you can just disconnect your XT60 and that'll keep it from going to your power station so that it's not fluctuating voltage as you're doing this. Please ensure that the charging voltage is set within the specified range from the power station to avoid any damage. So we say I've completed that and hit next, and it now allows us to go ahead and set our voltage. And we see here we can set it from 15 to 60 volts, anywhere within that range. So again, if I was going to be charging something large like our Delta Max rather, I would go ahead and bump it up to that 60 volt range. If we just wanted to charge something like maybe one of our EcoFlow units, those we know can only go up to a max of 28 volts. So I'm going to change that here to 28 volts and hit confirm and next. Now it is going to again remind us to disconnect the device before we turn it on. The reason why is because there are going to be capacitors in here that may still be charged up at that old voltage. It's going to take a little bit of time for that charge to trickle down, and we're going to see that in a second when we plug in my power meter, at least hopefully. That'll make sure that the charge voltage is correct, and we want to make sure that we see it in the app as being correct before we plug our EcoFlow unit in. We may be asking, how exactly are we going to plug an EcoFlow unit in here? Because we've got our XT60, but it goes to this weird MC4 connector. Again, not a weird connector, actually really common, just one that we haven't used before on the channel. Now MC4, because it is so ubiquitous, it is a very common connector type, they make lots of adapters for them. Just like we've seen adapters for our XT60 in the past, we have the same thing available for these MC4s. Now in this case, I got an octopus adapter. This adapts to pretty much any power station cable that you could get. So we've got one here for our Goal Zero units. We've got one here for our Blue Eddy unit. We've got one here for a power station that I haven't even featured yet. And then we've got one here for an XT60, which is going to be what's going to go into our EcoFlow unit. All right, so let's get our adapters plugged in here. Now, because we don't have anything plugged into these adapters at this time, we're in no danger of going ahead and plugging them in. And you will notice that with MC4s, real nice solid click here, and you'll see that there is a gasket in between there. This is a waterproof connection as well, so that's why they're used in solar panels, because they can be used outdoors. Very well protected cable there. All right, getting back into our app here. So we are going to again set our voltage. I had it set before, but I didn't confirm it or let it go through. So now we can confirm that voltage here. So again, we have nothing coming out right now, and let's next through here and agree. So the charging voltage is set to 28 volts. It tells you to wait for 90 seconds before connecting any energy appliances to avoid any damage. So we still show that it has 0 volts coming out. We're not getting anything coming out of this unit right now, but it must be internally discharging those capacitors and making sure that it doesn't have any spare voltage left over before it really allows us to even turn it on. So it's going to go through this, and it actually does have a countdown timer, so it's going to make us wait that full 90 seconds here. I could probably override it if I were to just hit this power button over here. Nope, they're smarter than me. It actually just sits there and flashes, and it doesn't allow me to override, and we still are getting 0 volts out of the unit here. All right, coming up on the last few seconds here of our timer. All right, so we can hit done now. And let's see how long it takes it to enable the charge. Or am I gonna have to turn that on? Oh, device is offline. Let's confirm that it's within range. Oh, okay, so it actually reset itself. That's why it makes us wait that 90 seconds. Now, it's still telling me in the app charging voltage of 30 volts. It's a little strange here. Let's turn the charging on, see what it says. Because I definitely set it to 28 volts. Yeah, and we're charging at 30 volts. Well, that's not great. So had I changed that, which we saw I did, I've got it on recording here, and then turned it on with it plugged into my power station, assuming that it did in fact keep that setting, it would not have. So let's try this one more time and change this. Maybe it's just because I waited. We did have a good amount of time between those two, so let's do it more quickly this time. All right, so it's telling us again, wait 90 seconds. So we'll wait another 90 seconds here and see if things change. Ooh-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. This is so exciting. All right, 28 volts, done. Hey, we now show charging voltage at 28 volts. Looks like it went through that time the first time. Again, probably my fault. I did leave it on that previous screen to the point where my phone kind of turned itself off, turned it back on. So let's see now if we've got 28 coming out. It did take a second for it to go. It did pop at 30 to begin with, which probably wouldn't be too much for these power stations. It did settle out at 28. Let's go ahead and, well, once it has figured out its life here, we're gonna turn it off, and then I'm gonna plug this directly into our power station. And in theory, I can probe this at the same time. Let's see if we can make that work. All right, we're going in XT60 directly into a River Pro. This River Pro is at 11% state of charge. It should be able to charge as quickly as we can put power into it. As a quick reminder, this can go up to, oh, this is why it's important to check your power stations, people. I thought it was 28 volts. This one is 25 volts. I was incorrect. So we're gonna go back in here and we are going to set this to 25 volts instead. All right, just finished up, caught it just in the nick of time. We do show now 25 volts. I'm not gonna plug it into the power station yet. I do have it plugged in here to our power meter. Let's turn her on, make sure we're getting 25 volts. Again, started a little high, started around 26 and then dipped down to 24.99. That is close enough. We'll turn this right back off here, which I'm gonna do from the button because the start charging takes forever. I'm not a huge fan of their app here. Oh, and that scares me because I pushed the button and then the charging indicator came back to 30 volts here. So if I turn that back on, so hitting that button resets it to 30 volts. Wow, that's really annoying. So once you turn this on, you have to change it from within the app. I didn't like it. Man, that stinks. Yeah, so hitting that button sends it right back to 30 volts, which again, for our use, could be dangerous. If I accidentally hit that button, or if that button accidentally gets pressed somewhere, then that could really mess things up. Let's see if there's a way to turn that off in the settings here. So we do have our charge voltage and temperature set, minimum voltage is available, but no, there's no way seemingly. All right, let's change this back. All right, we're gonna wait another 90 seconds. We're gonna get this thing to work, but I'm definitely going to be sending an email over to the BougeRV rep, and I want to pick their brain on a firmware update. This button needs to be something that you press and hold. It needs to be a press and hold for 30 seconds or something like that to change the voltage that quickly. That's too dangerous. That's something that is going to end up frying somebody's unit. And these guys say they take no responsibility for that, but really in that case, I would argue that that's definitely a flaw. So I'm gonna reach out to BougeRV and I'm interested to see what they follow up with. Let's make sure it actually charges first. We're gonna wait this additional 45 seconds here, get it plugged into our EcoFlow unit, and then verify that it's working. That does make sense why it didn't reset the first time though, because I thought I was turning it on and off using that button, but in fact I was resetting the voltage back to default with that. All right, we're showing again 25 volts. We're gonna turn it on, verify that that's the voltage we have coming out. We do see 25 volts there, 24.99. Again, good enough for me. I'm gonna wait until this start charging indicator disappears. So it did turn off. Let's plug our power station in and hope this doesn't explode in my lap. Charging on. Again, we bounced up to 26 volts before quickly settling in at 24.99. So we are getting 25 volts out. Based on the EcoFlow unit here, I'm seeing a charge input currently of 126, 150, 170, 190, 200. Wow, I bounced up to 200 watts there for a short moment, and then it settled back down to, it looks like around 191 watts. So again, our battery now is only pushing out 12.9 volts. Once it's under load, it does drop a little bit there. And this would be expecting around 14 volts. So I would believe at that point, it would be able to put out that full 600 watts if we did have 14 volts. But this power station, of course, can't accept that in. This is 25 volts at a max of 12 amps, which means that in theory, we could get it up to, this will put out 10 amps, so we can get up to 250 volts. I'm sorry, 250 watts rather. But with the battery only being at 12.9 volts, it makes sense as to why it's cutting that off. Now I need to look through the manual as well, because this is meant to have a low voltage cutoff that you're able to set. And I'm not seeing any options in here to set anything. There's no, okay, working minimum input voltage shows 13 volts currently, but it's at 12.8 and it's working. If I bump this up to 13.5 volts, does it turn off then? Okay, so when I bump it up to 13.5 volts, it does turn off. Expecting in a car, you're gonna be at 12 volts or under when it's sitting. and then you're going to be bumping up higher than that. The battery does have 13.2 volts in it right now, which is what it was reading. Probably is reading that before the voltage drop, but it's not displaying that in here. So yeah, I'm going to reach out to BougeRV. There's some concerns that I have with this product that I want to go over with them before I suggest it to you guys, and I want to see what they say back about it. This is a product that has just hit the ground running. I've only seen it on one other channel so far, so again, relatively new, and I can understand that maybe they're still working some of the kinks out, but I wouldn't expect the viewers to be the ones to test this on. So that concerns me a little bit. Bumping it back down to 13, and there it goes. So it did go ahead and kick on. Again, we're only at 77 degrees, but these fans are kicking full blast right now. And we've got an intake fan on one side. Is there an exhaust? No, there's only one fan. So it is just one fan. It's blowing across the unit here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna reach out, guys, in the next clip. Hopefully we'll see what's going on here and what I decide to do with this. We are still getting 190 watts though. That's impressive. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get real southern with you here for a moment. So the last time we were here taking a look at the BougeRV charger was just at a week ago. It's taken me a little bit of time to get back here, and I have had a little bit of back and forth with the company. So my main concerns boiled down to 4 points. First thing was the app instructions. The initial instructions were very confusing because of, again, I think that just broken translation. The second thing was the voltage display inaccuracy. So when we were testing it on the bench, I was running into a situation where even though I had it set to automatically turn off at 13 volts, the app was showing 12.6 volts, but the device wasn't turning itself off. So there is, when you're testing voltage through a cable this long, going to be a little bit of a drop in that voltage. And that explained to me why it may have been displaying incorrectly in the app, but it wasn't making sense to me why it wasn't then using that logic to still cut off the charge when it needed to. So I brought that up to them. Also, the excessive loading delays, I just really said from a UX standpoint, it didn't make a lot of sense. You're sitting there making your user wait on that one screen. Instead, why don't you just make the start button not light up for 30 seconds? That seems like a better idea. Neither here nor there. And then the last thing was, in my opinion, the most important thing, and that's going to be the second button on the side here. So again, you've got your main power button here, but we also have here a button that automatically sets it to a default state. And that default state is to output 30 volts. Now, if I, for instance, had one of my EcoFlows in the back of my car plugged in, and something bumped this when we got groceries, or maybe a small child decided to push a button because they saw a bright yellow button. Well, that's going to set this device in about 90 seconds after it goes through its little test phase there. It's going to set it to output 30 volts. My EcoFlow is not going to be able to accept that. And depending on how much current it tries to push through it, the EcoFlow could simply throw a fault and maybe pop a fuse, or it could end up actually frying the input MPPT side on that EcoFlow, essentially making it a paperweight. So I expressed to them that really needs to change. It needs to come down to an option where you either press and hold it, or something where you can cycle through with a certain amount of key presses. So I went ahead and I sent them that email over, and I waited a little bit. It was at the new year, so it made sense to me that they weren't getting back to me right away. Only took 3 days though, so not anything I can really complain about. First thing, translations, they're already on it. They did notice that, and they're working on pushing an update. No big deal. Hopefully that'll be resolved by the time any of you get this in hand. The input voltage accuracy though is based on a measurement at the terminals of the device. And again, because of the voltage drop over the length of cable that they give you here, and of course I was using their cable, I wasn't using my own to be directly there, because they expect you to be using their cable, they actually program in a voltage drop to assume that the battery is at a higher state than what they're reading at the terminals. So in fact, what it was displaying on the app is what they were reading at the terminals, but the logic in the app is set to account for half a volt of voltage drop. And because of that, while I was seeing 12.6 in the app, The app actually, for the case of turning the device off, was seeing 13.1. So we would have had to have drained it down below 13 volts, in this case below what it showed on the app as being 12.5 volts for it to have cut off. So that again was just my confusion. I did explain to them that that could cause confusion if people are relying on the app to tell them what their battery is at. But we'll see here in a moment when I actually put this into a car why that may not be that big of a deal. The last two things that I had to go over with them, again, the DC to DC startup delay, they did explain that that is a safety feature because of the fact that they have to discharge the caps in here. If you've got it set to 60 volts and go to plug it into something that is only expecting 11 volts, then that could definitely fry it if it just immediately gets that high jolt. So again, I understand why they did it. I went back and I said, hey, understand, just maybe you could make it a little bit of a smoother transition. And they said they'll look into that. And then the last thing, of course, was the button on the back. And they did say that that is something they have control over as far as programming, and they're going to look into potentially changing it in the future. Not necessarily my favorite answer. It's not a, hey, yeah, we're going to do that. It's a, we have the ability to do it. We'll see. I would say that as long as this device passes our next test installed in a vehicle, it definitely does have a use case. You just have to be wary of that button on the side and really make sure that this is protected. Again, this is a brand that is made for overlanders. They're made for people that are going to be out in their RVs. And generally, if you've got an RV electrical system, it's going to all be hidden away in a box somewhere, and it's not going to be something out where people are going to be able to push the buttons. So this could very well be a set it and forget it for anyone in that situation. For me, again, maybe not their core user. Putting it into my car and having it just kind of bounce around in the trunk, not going to be a good situation unless I make sure to check it every single time I plug a device into it. So with that said, what I'd like to do next is pull my car into the warehouse here, and we're going to get this hooked up and show you all the last feature of it working inside of a vehicle. All right. So this is under the hood of the better half's car. We've got a, I think 2021 Mazda CX-5. Pretty standard though, as far as what you're going to see under here when it comes to the electrical components. So where I'm going to be focusing is right up here at the battery. Again, we don't need to hook anything up to the alternator itself for these alternator chargers because the alternator is directly connected to the battery and is going to charge the battery. So in this case, I'm going to remove this guy here, which is just simply a cover for my positive terminal. You'll see that I've got some fuses here, and this goes out to the main positive of the vehicle, and then this one here goes to our starter. Now, Mazda was kind enough, and most manufacturers will be, to give me a stud that I can go ahead and put my own accessories on directly here. And then from there, I just need to go and find a ground point, which in this case, I've got one conveniently located right above the positive point. Now, on most installs, the hardest part of this is going to be simply getting the wiring from your battery back to wherever you need it in your vehicle. Again, if you've got a dedicated electrical component spot for things like your RV, then you can go ahead and use that. In this case, we're just using, again, a consumer vehicle. So we're just going to go ahead and hook it right up to the battery here. And I'm not going to run the wiring at this time. Again, because of the concerns that I have with this device, I don't know that it's going to work the best for my situation on a daily basis, but still going to be a good in an emergency option. In case we do run into that hurricane situation and lose power, I've got some backup right here, and I can at least get 600 watts and use my car as a generator. All right, perfect. Got that on there. Realize my battery terminal is a little loose, so I'm going to tighten that up when we're done here. So I've got the BougeRV wired up. I went ahead and hit the power button, but I'm only getting a red LED out of here. What's going on? That's actually an expected behavior. So again, the BougeRV has a voltage cutoff, and you can set that based on the vehicle that you're working with. But in this case, the reason why is because our battery is only currently outputting 12.45 volts. So that is not enough to actually kick this device on. Now, when I start the vehicle, that's going to make the output jump. It's going to spike up to around 14 volts. Once that happens, the BougeRV knows that your alternator is running, and it's not going to be stressing or draining your battery, and it will kick on automatically. So now that we've got the vehicle running, if I check my battery terminals here again, we're seeing 13.7 volts. So again, that should be sufficient. And we can see here now, the BougeRV has lit up green. No fan because there's currently no amperage coming out of it, but as soon as we plug a device in, course, that's what we would see. So it sees what I was seeing, 13.6 volts. Again, nothing currently going out, but it is set on 25 volts. So I should be able to grab my adapter and plug this directly into one of the EcoFlows. The fan just kicked on the BougeRV and we should see charging. There we go. So let's see what we're able to get up to here on this EcoFlow unit. There we go. So again, double the charging speed in this case. I'm now going to be able to charge this in 2 hours instead of 4. So that is more than sufficient to get this charged up from halfway, getting it 2 hours to get up to 100%. That's good enough for me. And the app on the BougeRV side does show that as well. And the app on the BougeRV side does show as well the output that we're seeing here. So again, 202 watts going out, 190, it just dropped down to, and 194 on the EcoFlow. Now, as soon as I turn the car off, we should see that dip down. Now the BougeRV, almost immediately, the fan turned off on that, and we see we no longer have any voltage going into our power bank. Exactly what it is supposed to do in this case, it should be cutting off so that it doesn't drain our main battery. So again, that does pass the test. Let's go ahead and get this back out of here, get back over to the bench and give some final thoughts. All right. So final verdict time on the BougeRV. For the right use case, I think that this is a great device. If you've got one of the larger power stations that can take advantage of everything this thing can put out, full 60 volts at 10 amps, which would give you a full 600 watts, this thing is fantastic. It can work with any power station. It's not tied down to a specific brand. The app, while it may have a little bit of a deficiency, once it's set up, it really is set it and forget it. And the wiring that they send you, in my opinion at least, is more than sufficient. So I do think that there are two main deficiencies with this unit as I have it right now. One, that fuse needs to be on the other side. There's no reason for it to be on the component side when it really should be on the battery side. The second deficiency is going to be that button on the front. Again, if you're putting this in a situation where it could be easily pressed either by something just rolling around in your trunk or by possibly a small finger that likes shiny buttons, that button could get you in trouble if you are using it with a smaller station. Again, I really think that this is meant for something like the EcoFlow Delta, where you're able to really take advantage of the full 600 watts that this can put out. And it's not meant to power up these smaller stations that can't take a minimum of 30 volts. In that use case, in the proper use case, I would say, this thing makes a heck of a lot of sense. It's cheaper than the alternatives. It works and it's brand agnostic, so you don't have to be tied down to one power station or another. And ultimately, it does what it said it would do. All right, y'all, so this has been a deep dive into the BougeRV DC600. If this looks like a product that's gonna be good for your use case, take a look at the links in the description. Anything you buy from there does give a small kickback to the channel. Didn't influence my decision on this at all. As you can see, I definitely do have some qualms with it. But overall, I think it's a good device. Thanks y'all for sticking around for this one. If you like what you saw here, go ahead and subscribe for more product reviews, battery teardowns, and some solar system builds coming up very soon. For now, I'm Fo. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next one.